Welcome to Begin, Build, Blossom, your business journey with Clarita, the podcast where we will discuss valuable insights, resources, and motivation to fuel your entrepreneurial spirit. Let's build a supportive community together. Subscribe now to Begin, Build, Blossom, and let's embark on your business journey. Welcome to our podcast, Begin, Build, Blossom, your business journey with Clarita. This is a CME Accounting LLC podcast. My name is Clarita. I am the founder of CME Accounting LLC, and part of our mission is to help other entrepreneurs who would like to start on their journey. And we thought that by hearing stories of those who have gone before us, we would be able to inspire those coming after. Over the next few episodes, you will be hearing from other entrepreneurs, but today you get to hear from me, and I have a dear friend and fellow entrepreneur who would be asking some questions so that we can learn more about my journey. I'll be passing you over to Shotsani. Hi, Shotsani. How are you?
Hi, Rita. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you so much for joining us today, and thanks for taking the time to help our audience to learn more about me and my business journey.
You're welcome. So tell me a little bit about CME Accounting. What type of a business is that? What services do you provide?
Yes, CME Accounting LLC is a very new business. We were founded as a PC back in 2021. We provide accounting services for small and mid-sized businesses. I absolutely love doing accounting, and I'm just so happy to be able to assist small businesses as they work to achieve their goals.
Okay. What were you doing before you started CME Accounting?
Yeah, I like that question. So I've always been in accounting, except before I worked in corporate. Before starting CME Accounting LLC, I worked with an accountant in various industries. I worked with law firms. I worked in public accounting. I also worked with nonprofits, one of them being Stanford. So I had the opportunity to work, to see different aspects of accounting. And all of that brought me back to my first dream of one day having my own accounting firm where I can help smaller businesses.
Mm-hmm. So tell me a little bit about what that process was like for you to start your independent business.
Yes. So for me, I like that. It's definitely been a process. I always knew that I wanted to one day own my firm. I just never really knew how, but it's definitely something I kept at the back of my mind. And back in 2020, I became a mom. And of course, we all know COVID hit, and I was working quite busy hours while trying to raise a baby in isolation. So when it came time to go back to work, it was a much more difficult decision. So it was during that time I looked at my options. At first, I became a stay-at-home mom, and while I was home with my daughter, that gave me some time to really reflect. And I decided now is actually the best time to start my business. And I did that very slowly. Again, I had a new baby. So but at least I had time to think through the process and just to think of what it is that I need. And I will say having friends that really know what I wanted to do actually helped quite a bit because they helped keep me accountable. And one of my friends had actually started her own business, and we would constantly talk about her business, and I would give the accounting side of things. But overall, we both shared the passion for business, and just having those constant conversations with her really pushed me to think of me as the entrepreneur, as the business owner. And all of this just all came together to the point where I was able to go ahead and work on that dream.
Okay. So did she, it sounds like she was really kind of instrumental in keeping you on track on this new venture. Was she your first client, or just a friend that helped along the way?
Both. She's a great friend, and she is my first client into through CME. I've worked with other persons before I actually founded my business, but through CME she was my first, and she's still one of my clients. So being able to talk through some things with her made me realize, this is something I really do want. I want to do, and we continue to work together. And she's been pushing me in so many ways because sometimes you want to start a business, but you're scared. And she would always ask me if you're not afraid, what is it you would be doing? And she would constantly ask me that. And I realized that is what I want to be doing. I'm running my accounting practice.
All right. Well, congratulations.
Thank you.
Tell me a little bit about what the biggest leap was that you had to take when you were transitioning from being an employee to being an entrepreneur.
Yes, I will say that getting started was the scariest and the biggest because I believe sometimes we're the ones to keep ourselves behind. Again, going back to my friend talking about fear. We know we want something, but we focus on the fear instead. So I think for me, the biggest leap was getting past that. And also, the fear comes from uncertainty as well, because when you're working for someone, you have a check that comes in every month. You go in, you put in your time, you get the work done, and you don't have to figure out where payroll is coming from or the bills, money to pay bills at the business. So it's very different. So once I took that leap and started to think, okay, I do want to own my practice and I can do it, then that was a quite a transition. And thinking differently from being an employee opposed to an entrepreneur, that's huge as well. I remember going into a meeting for a project I was hoping to get. And I walked in thinking as an employee, but by the time I came out, I'm like, I remember that transition happening through the meeting where I realized I am here trying to get a client as a business, not just me trying to get a job. So I can make the demands I want. I can change the terms that we're working with. Like I'm actually here as the owner of the firm. So negotiating is something I can do here. So for me, actually seeing that mindset change, that was huge. And I remember that my friend that I spoke about, I speak with her a lot about all that goes on as I go through this process. And I remember really speaking to her about that and thinking, oh my gosh, this was an amazing revelation. And I think some of that came from going through coaching. One of the things I did is invest in myself. And one of those was actually getting a business coach to actually help me get my idea from paper to reality. And my friend actually is the one I followed her footsteps because she had gotten coaches. She had invested so much in herself to get to where she was. And I was seeing that as an example that I should follow. And having gone through coaching where I was basically, I was able to see myself as the business owner as opposed to the employee. It was amazing to see. When it comes to a business coach, I would like to highlight some of the benefits that I think comes with that. My coach, I found her because she was a speaker at one of the training sessions that I attend as an accountant. I looked her up and found out she was an accountant who had gone into coaching. And those two together were amazing because I was looking for someone like her. I reached out, we connected, and we started working together. And I would say that she connected me with other accountants, so that I can have one-on-one discussions with them to ask questions about their business and anything that I thought I wanted to learn. She introduced me to opportunities she had heard about, things that I would not necessarily know about, but since she works with other accountants as well, she knows more than I do, and she helped and she shared that information with me. She also recommended books that I read, and one of them really stuck with me, and it's called "You Are a Badass at Making Money" by Jen Sincero. And I will say that thing lit a fire under me. And so working with a coach really helps open up your world, I believe. And it's amazing. So I would certainly encourage that.
Well, that's a really big accomplishment to make that big leap.
Yeah, thank you.
Can you tell me a little bit? I'm curious because I heard you mention something about payroll, right? And those checks that come in, knowing that that salary is going to come through. So can you talk to me a little bit about what building a team has looked like for you so far, if you have employees, and how you've kind of utilized resources to get the business, to scale your business?
Right. So right now I do have a team. It's not official in the sense that I actually have employees. So it's more contractors, and that contractor one of the main contractors being my brother.
Okay.
So I'm actually using support of my family to help me build a business. And I've been talking to him quite a bit about my goal for him to be my very first employee. And he's on board with that. So it's something we're working towards. So in terms of building a team, I would say, even though you're not able to have someone on payroll, like an official employee, we cannot take for granted the help that we get from others within our network. The other thing that I do is rely very heavily on the network that I do have. So if I have a question and I don't know the answer, I would reach out to someone that I know. So I would say building your network is huge, and your network, in a sense, become parts of your team, even though it's not your official paid team, like an actual group of employees.
Mm-hmm.
So in terms of team building, the other thing I would say is there is at least one other accountant who has been so amazing to me. I heard her speak. I think it was during a webinar, and I was so impressed with her that I reached out, and we had a great first conversation. And since then, we've been meeting every week as much as we can. And she literally helps me think through processes. She's helping me as I build my practice. And I cannot tell you how valuable that is to me. So even though you don't have, like, I mean, I've said this before, I'm going to reiterate. Even though you don't have an official team in terms of people on payroll, the people you can rely on in your network, I consider those people part of my team.
Mm-hmm. Okay, very nice. That's kind of like your, I call that sometimes like your board of directors.
Oh, yes, I agree.
As opposed to your employees. So, Clarita, I'm curious, how do you get clients?
You will hear me say this a lot. Network. I remember I got one of my clients through someone I met at an event. More specifically, my brother had an event at his house. He invited some friends. I'd never met those friends before, but we got to talking. Come to find out that she's a bookkeeper like myself, and she was needing some temporary assistance. And basically, she told me more about the role. She said, if you can come to my office next week, we can talk through the role. And I went in, interviewed, and I was hired. So I think for me, that was this had never happened before. It was amazing. But it just really tells you a lot about the value of networking. And sometimes people talk about networking as if it's you trying to get something from somebody. But I think I look at it more as, you're talking to people who share your interest. You guys are having fun, whether it be going to a cooking class or just going to events in the community. You're having fun together. As you get to know each other, you realize you have common goals and interests. And you realize I can help you and you can help me. And it goes on like that. Plus, especially as an accountant, people like to work with people that they trust. So when you get to know somebody, just for getting to know them, not you trying to get anything from them. You may be the first person they think of if something comes up. So I value networking very much. There are also the more official ones, like going to events. I like doing that. I haven't had a chance to do much of that. But I just love building relationships just every day. And I find that to be very fulfilling. But one of the things that comes out of that, which I benefit from, is you can you meet people who may be able to connect you to the right opportunities. You've heard me talk a lot about networking. I think it's important to focus a little bit on the how. As we all know, it is important, but how do we network? What I have found works for me is, first of all, remaining open to venturing out. I know some of us are persons who don't like to leave our homes. Others we get energy from being around other people. Or if you're like me, I happen to fall in both buckets. Some days I can go all out. Other days I do like to stay inside. But it's important for me to remember to remain open to going out there. We can do that either virtually or by actually going to an event in person. They're both impactful. An example of a time I met someone, it was at a local event in my community. There was a vendor. I was purchasing from her, and we got to talking about accounting. And we had quite a good conversation. And she told me about an event that was being held sometime later, but I got the opportunity to actually attend that event, and I got to see her again, and I got to meet other entrepreneurs, and that was amazing. I did mention that I had reached out to another accountant that I was very impressed by. We've continued to keep in touch. She's been helping me a lot. And she also shares webinars and conferences, and she shares with me so much information that I would not have known about. So that is very valuable. She's helped me with gaining confidence because I'm able to see exactly how she does stuff. It's not just about reading or watching videos online, but she's actually showing me how these things are done and helping me as I do it myself. So all that came from networking. I am also part of Facebook pages where referrals are always requested. People are always asking questions as well. So there is a lot of learning that happens there, and you get access to other people who are doing the same thing, or who knows somebody who's looking for someone like you. So that is definitely a way to go. And one of the last things I will say is create your own events. For me, this is my new challenge. I plan to create some events in my community. I don't quite know what or when, but it is definitely something I want to do. I'm thinking along the lines of hosting maybe training sessions, or basically just have some time where business owners in the area can come together and discuss different things, how things are going in the community, because I think we all work in silos. So every business owner is doing their own thing on that particular street. But if we probably come together just for a night of meeting and see what common issues we are probably dealing with, or how we can just help out each other. I think some of that is being done to an extent. So I am looking into that right now. All this to say, creating your own events could also be an option, or creating your own meetup as well. So I really hope those were useful, and forward to learning from you as well. So please feel free to send me any recommendations to podcast@cmeaccountingllc.com. Thank you.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's kind of in a way like how we met, right? It was just kind of a
Yes.
just so happened thing, and then it's like, hey, yeah, I've got this business. Oh wow, me too. And then it just kind of, takes off from there on the walk home after dropping the kids off at school.
Right, it's amazing. And if we look at that a little bit more, basically we met because I was looking for a school for my daughter and your kid was going
Oh, that's
there.
right. The first time we met, right.
Right. So I remember coming in and I saw you and I asked you, what do you think about the school?
Mm-hmm.
And then I saw you again later. Yeah, I saw you again and we just kept talking.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, oh, I actually turned around and I told my brother, this is going to be my friend.
Oh, that's so funny.
Because
it was later the same day, right?
Yes.
Like maybe like half an hour later, you saw me walking home from school.
Right.
That's too funny.
Because, but you were just so pleasant, and
Aw.
you had this. You were really nice, so I just thought, wouldn't it be nice to be her friend? And now we're friends, so
That's too funny.
I'm really glad that we are. And what came out of that was an initiative that we recently started called Entrepreneurs Connect Initiative, where we've brought other friends of ours together.
Mm-hmm.
And we meet up to discuss business ideas, just to maybe like if there's something someone is interested in, we try to get a speaker who can come in to to address that. So it's constant learning and creating support for each other.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that constant support. There have been a few times over the last few months where I've just been like, oh, I'm too tired. I don't have time, like, for my full-time job and, starting a business and being a mom. So I'm curious for you, like what was that one or two or three times where you felt like you were ready to kind of just give up on the whole thing?
It's been quite a few times. But I think that's where passion comes in, because I remember once telling my brother, why can't I just be one of those people that just don't care? I why can't I just let it go? Because I feel very frustrated at times. And but I just can't let it go. I love what I would love to see how far I can go. So why stop now? And I am driven by passion.
Mm-hmm.
I really love this. I love working with accounting. I love meeting people. I love just seeing things grow, whether it's a plant or a business. I love all of it. So I'm trying to think of one instant recently. Let me see. I would say it's sometimes really around motherhood, as I love being a mom,
Mm-hmm.
but I do recognize the challenges that comes with it. So sometimes it's about balancing my life as a business person with my life as a mom. But then I just remember that once I get those two to work together, it will work out, because one of my biggest motivators is my daughter. And I want to be able to be present with her. I want to be able to attend her events. I just want to be able to spend a lot of time with her. So by me having this business, it allows me to schedule around her schedule as opposed to doing things around just my schedule. So I would say that even in those moments where it's just so much to do all at once, it's just a lot coming at you. I just remember that and it keeps me going. So I would say passion and my motivation was my daughter. That's what gets me through.
Yeah, I agree with that, definitely. That would probably be the answer if you had asked me that question.
And that brings me to a point about, being a mom and being able to do all of this. It's something. But so I think it takes, even extra effort on our part. But as long as you love what you're doing, at the end it works out because you put in that work.
Yep, absolutely. I definitely agree with that. Can you come up with a few recommendations for someone who might be in your position with a job, or possibly just starting a family and wanting to get started on their own journey? What might you suggest that they do at this point if they feel like they might be itching to move into the next phase of their life?
So I think one of the main things I would say is to, one, be around people who share your goal, who are trying to get to the same place. I'm not saying don't be around others. I'm just saying being around those who do keeps you accountable. It keeps you hungry. It reminds you what you're fighting for. So surround yourself with those people. If you don't have those people around you, you go look for them. You might find them in simple places like drop off at school. Like I mentioned Sunny. And she really does help keep that fire alive in me because I see it in her as well. And we all want to get to that same place and we want to help each other to achieve those goals. And the next thing I would say is investing in yourself. It's a lot of money that you have to put in to start a business, in the sense that some businesses might require a lot more capital up front, or some, as long as you have your computer, you can get started. But for me, what I've found is if you really want to do it right, you may want to spend money in getting coaching, like getting someone who can coach you, even like hiring an accountant. So even before you get started, maybe just get an hour of time from an accountant just to talk through what you can expect or what you should be doing ahead of time. Because sometimes you find people going to business and they didn't realize I needed to keep this receipt or I needed to keep track of all my expenses pertaining to just this, even though they don't have the official business yet. So it's good to just have that conversation, and that might not even cost you actually. There are accountants who would give you 30 minutes of their time just to talk through something. So I would say spending money if need to, or asking somebody for that advice would be great. And the friend I mentioned who really helped me get started, I saw her doing that. She would reach out. She wanted to focus on what she was working on, and she reached out to other people who were good at what they were doing to help her along. And it's been great to see that. I've learned from that because never before would I say, I'm going to spend this much money to pay a coach. I just didn't see the value before. But then again, it's good to do that even as an employee, but most of us wouldn't spend that money unless the business is providing that as a benefit. But as an entrepreneur, I saw the value in that. So I would encourage others to do that. And even though you don't have the money for it now, there are people who would be willing to be a mentor. Reach out to them, speak with them. You just never know unless you ask. So I would say those are the two things I would really encourage. And those things may not even cost you anything. Investing that time and energy in learning from others who have gone before you. And this is actually part of what this podcast is. We're hoping that we can speak with others, learn about their journeys, and in turn inspire others who are listening. And hopefully we can actually match these people together so that we can actually provide that 30 minutes we talked about. If we match a listener with someone who's been on the show, they can have those conversations one-on-one and maybe even create relationships, start businesses, continue to grow businesses. I just think there is so much potential, and just speaking to each other and learning from each other can go a very long way. We would like to build a community of support through this podcast. And one of the ways we're going to do that is by asking guests whether they would like to volunteer some of their time to have one-on-one meetings with persons who are interested. And that brings us back to networking. This is a very good way to connect with others. I am going to get started. Since this is the very first episode, I am the first guest. I am going to lead by example. I would like to offer at least 30 minutes of my time to discuss with you any questions that you may have. We can discuss QuickBooks if you like. We can just talk through things to keep in mind when starting a business. Are you looking for an accountant's perspective on something that you're working on right now? We can talk about all of that. So please go ahead and send an email to podcast@cmeaccountingllc.com. The first two persons will be able to schedule a call with me, and I look forward to hearing from you.
Mm-hmm. Those are really good recommendations. That's good advice. So I think maybe the last thing that we can touch upon is how can your listeners reach you outside of the podcast? How else will they be able to connect and reach out to you?
Yeah, so I am on social media. On LinkedIn, you can find me at Clarita Emmanuel. I guess by searching for Clarita Emmanuel. On Instagram, on Facebook, you can look me up at CME Accounting LLC. And we have a website, cmeaccountingllc.com. And if you would like to share any feedback with us, you can email me at podcast@cmeaccountingllc.com. And I encourage you to send me a message. I look forward to speaking with you.
Thank you very much. That was a lot of fun.
Well, thank you so much, Sunny. I am really glad we got the opportunity to do this, and I look forward to interviewing you on our next episode.
Be gentle.
Well, thanks so much. We would like to thank all our listeners, and see you next time. Thanks for listening to this episode of Begin, Build, Blossom, Your Business Journey, a CME Accounting LLC podcast. Please subscribe and be on the lookout for our next episode. If you'd like to share any feedback with us, please email us at podcast@cmeaccountingllc.com.